Hello, and welcome back to Ponderings of the Pre-Retired, where we talk about all things having to do with pre-retirement and really just have conversation about being our best selves. And one way we can do that is by creating habits that feed our soul and feed our spirit. Habits around feeding our bodies and doing well by our bodies. And one of the things we've been doing now for the past several weeks is we've been doing meditation on Sundays surrounding this book called Seasons of the Spirit. And it's daily meditations for adults in midlife. And I opened the book to August 24th, which is the date of the Sunday that we are reading. And really found some good morsels on this. So let me go ahead and read it, and then we'll talk through it a little bit, and then hopefully this will speak to your spirit, and you may leave some comments about how this may apply to you. Knowledge is received only in those moments in which every judgment, every criticism coming from ourselves is silent. And that is a quote by Rudolf Steiner. It's hard to learn about ourselves when our internal critic is sitting perched on our shoulder, ready to attack. When this is happening, nothing looks good. We see the world and ourselves through a dusty, distorted lens. Persistent self-criticism makes it almost impossible to acknowledge our gifts and our goodness. Negative thinking erodes our self-esteem. Expecting the worst seems to attract negative people and situations into our lives. And it's a vicious circle, our negativity weighing us down more and more until it's hard to get up in the morning. Bringing the sun back into our lives first requires facing the fact that we have a negative attitude. Then we have to learn to listen for the critic and become willing to live with the initial anxiety of silencing him or her. It's not easy to let go. Replacing negative thoughts with positive, affirming ones may at first feel silly or false. That's a critic talking. In time, however, we grow used to them and believe them. Our thoughts, which translate into attitude, can remake us and our lives. Today, help me identify one negative thought and replace it with a positive one. So, what do you take from this meditation? This really resonated for me from my younger self. I will say that although I can sometimes get some negative self-talk, I have more of a tendency the older I've gotten to be quick to identify that negative self-talk and then replace it with positive affirmations. And I try to focus on the things that I'm doing right instead of the things that I'm doing wrong. Even I noticed with this YouTube channel, starting a YouTube channel is very courageous and is very bold and it's very brave. And any of you who are out there doing this, I just commend you wholeheartedly, because it's definitely not for the faint at heart. And if you have a negative image of yourself, or you talk badly about yourself to yourself, it really could, be detrimental to you with a YouTube channel, as just an example, because you can always find others who, are doing better or doing more or have more views or have more subscribers. I have barely any subscribers and I have barely any views right now. But one thing that I really do trust is that I am boldly and courageously putting myself out into the world. whether it's on YouTube or otherwise. And I know that the information that I'm sharing and the part of myself that I'm sharing is coming from a authentic, genuine care about other people. And that will resonate with people. It may not resonate with a ton of people. I may never have, a viral video or 1 million subscribers or, 10 million views, and that's okay. That's not what my goal is for this channel, anyways. But you can see where I'm going with this, right? If we compare ourselves to others and where others are at in life, we're never going to feel like we can measure up. We're always going to have negative self-talk. There was a time in my life, it's really actually very sad, that I would negative self-talk myself all the time and compare myself and just didn't have anything really positive to say about myself. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't skinny enough. I wasn't tall enough or short enough. I wasn't wealthy enough. I didn't drive a nice enough vehicle. I didn't have a nice enough house. My kids weren't, performing as well as other people's kids. Whatever. I wasn't as good of a parent. There's all these things that we can say to ourselves, like we would never do that to our best friend. We would never even do that to a stranger, but yet we would do that to ourselves, And I don't know where that comes from. I grew up in a family system that was dysfunctional, and I heard and saw a lot of things growing up that helped to shape, especially me as a young lady. So maybe that's where some of that came from, some of that negative self-talk, because I grew up in a very negative environment. But there's so much evidence to the contrary that as I've gotten older, even though that negative self-talk will still try to sneak in, still try to kind of whisper in my ear, like they said in this affirmation right here on my shoulder, there's this little negative self-talk. But on this shoulder is the positive self-talk, and this shoulder has gotten a lot stronger than this shoulder. So it's still here, but not as strong as this shoulder and my positive self-talk, because I've had, and I arm myself with a lot of positive affirmation. Positive people, we have to watch who we're hanging out with, because if we're hanging out with negative people, that's gonna keep this negative strong. If we're watching negative things, if we're listening to negative, things on TV, things on social media, I have given up social media completely. No Facebook, no Instagram, no LinkedIn, no TikTok, none of it, which I don't even feel is social anymore. All of those platforms are just media. They're not social any longer. And what you do see is a lot of negative. So you want to be careful of how much you're feeding your soul of negativity. If you're watching negative TV, listening to negative radio, talk shows, podcasts, whatever, if you're bringing in negative, that's going to turn into potentially negative towards yourself. So try to put in as much positive as you can negative, and refrain from as much negative as you possibly can, because that will help you to kind of minimize some of that negative self-talk that is coming at us from a lot of different angles, and that we can, kind of do to ourselves as well from time to time. So this meditation really just affirmed for me the importance of focusing on as much positive self-talk as we possibly can, limiting and or eliminating as much negative outside sources as we possibly can, and continue to you know send ourselves those positive affirmations. We're going to be our best selves when we are in a positive light, when we're feeling in a positive light about ourselves and about the world around us. So I hope this meditation was helpful for you today. If this is your first time on our channel, I'm Lois. This is Ponderings of the Pre-Retired. We'd love for you to subscribe, and we'll see you next week for our next Sunday meditation from the book Seasons of the Spirit. I'll link it in the description. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.